Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Azra FARISHA binti Zainal with my partner JAMALIAH binti BAKTI representing our research, which is factors influencing the intention of practicing green computing among UiTM Seremban 3 students. So I'm going to begin with research background. Due to the negative impact of information technology IT, such as computers on the environment, green computing has become very important concern among researchers, universities, governments, and others. Sufficient knowledge and education related to green computing is less applied among Malaysian public university students. This study aims to obtain more evidence and information about green computing practices among students at UiTM Seremban and hope that students will be more aware of green computing. So now I'm going to proceed with the problem statements. Our problem statement is whether the students at UiTM Seremban practice green computing or not. The second problem statement is reveal the green computing attitudes that occur in Malaysia. The third one is to give awareness to students at UiTM Seremban 3 on the importance of green computing.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is JAMALIAH binti BAKTI. Now I will proceed to the research objective and research question. There are three objectives in this research, which is the first one is to determine the level of green computing knowledge among UiTM students in Seremban 3. The second one is to examine the consumption pattern of computer usage among UiTM students in Seremban 3. The third one is to examine the relationship between responsibility, attitude, and compatibility with the UiTM students' intention to practice green computing. And the last one is to examine which factor has the strongest influence toward UiTM students' intention to practice green computing. While the research question is reflection from the research objective. And now we move to the conceptual framework. There are three independent variables and one dependent variable. The first independent variable is responsibility, the second one is attitude, and the third one is compatibility. The first independent variable is responsibility. Green computing addresses ways to sustainably support vital computing requirements by reducing resource and environmental strains. According to Soomro and Sarwar 2012, improving computational efficiency and reducing energy usage and carbon footprints is one of green computing's key goals. So, hypothesis development for this independent variable is H0 is there is no relationship between responsibility and green computing. H1 there is relationship between responsibility and green computing. The second independent variable is attitude. Attitude has a positive direct impact on the decision to use green IT. According to SADAF 2013, individuals with a more optimistic outlook toward emerging technology are more likely to embrace certain technologies and practices. So, H0 is there is no relationship between attitude and green computing. H1 is there is relationship between attitude and green computing. The last independent variable is compatibility. Computers have become vital for the effectiveness of every organization. In order to perform a multitude of activities including jobs, studies, teaching, and studying, most organizations rely on computers. Making green IT will not only save money but also help save our planet by making it a safer environment by reducing or removing unsustainable processes by using non-toxic products. H0 for this independent variable is there is no relationship between compatibility and green computing. H1 is there is relationship between compatibility and green computing.
Now I'm going to continue with the research methodology. For research design, we have chose quantitative method. It is to help us to collect more data. Then the unit of analysis. The unit of analysis is the individual who are the students at UiTM Seremban 3. For sample size, we chose 100 respondents, which are the students from different faculty at UiTM Seremban 3. For sampling technique, we use non-probability convenience. It is when we contribute the questionnaire randomly to the students. For the measurement, we use Likert scale. The Likert scale have been measured from strongly disagree to strongly agree. For data collection, we have section A, B, C, D, E, and F. For section A, there's demography. Then section B is the green computing knowledge, about 3 questions. The section C is green computing practices, also 3 questions. Section D, responsibility towards green computing, 4 questions. Section E, compatibility of green computing, 4 questions. And section F, attitude towards green computing, is also 4 questions. For data analysis, we have used normality test, reliability analysis, and Pearson correlation, also multiple regression.
So I will continue to the research finding. In the research finding, there will be demographic profile. The first aspect for demographic is the gender. Female has the highest percentage, which is 54%, with the 54 frequency of the respondent. For the age, 21 until 23 years has the highest percentage, which is 75%, with the 75 frequency of respondent. And for the faculty, FSPPP has the highest percentage, which is 59%, with the 59 frequency of the respondent. For the level of education, degree has the highest percentage, which is 86%, with the 86 frequency of the respondent. For the number of computing devices owned, 2 until 3 has the highest percentage, which is 81%, with the 81 frequency of the respondent. And the last is types of computing devices owned, which is computer has the highest percentage, which is 98%, with the 98 frequency of the respondent.
Now I'm going to proceed with main findings. We have 4 objectives. The first objective is to determine the level of green computing knowledge among UiTM students in Seremban 3. The analysis that we use is mean. The results show that there are 4.37, 4.36, and 4.29. That means that majority of students in UiTM Seremban 3 have knowledge of green computing. The next objective is to examine the consumption pattern of computer usage among UiTM students in Seremban 3. We use frequency analysis. The result shows that about 6 respondents use computer devices 1 to 2 hours, and 8 respondents use computing devices 3 to 4 hours. 20 respondents use computing devices for 4 to 6 hours, and then lastly, 66 respondents use computing devices for 6 hours and above. This shows that students in UiTM Seremban 3 have higher consumption pattern on their computing devices. The next objective is to examine the relationship between responsibility with the UiTM students' intention to practice green computing, to examine the relationship between the attitude and the intention to practice green computing, and to examine the relationship between compatibility and the intention to practice computing. For the responsibility, we use Pearson correlation. The result shows that the R is 0.584 and the P is 0.000. This shows that H1 was accepted and H0 is rejected. For the attitude, we also use Pearson correlation. The results show that the R value is 0.560 and the P value is 0.0. This means that H1 was accepted and H0 is rejected. The next one is for the compatibility. We also use Pearson correlation. The results show that the R value is 0.423 and the P value is 0.0. This shows that the H1 was accepted and H0 is rejected. The last objective is factor that has the strongest influence toward UiTM students' intention to practice green computing. The analysis that we use is multiple regression. The results show that the R2 value is 0.214, and this means that the attitude is the strongest influence toward UiTM students, with the beta value is 0.251 and the P value is 0.0. Now I'm going to proceed with the research recommendation. The first recommendation is to improve green computing usage. Careful use of computing devices should be implemented in society, especially among students. The second recommendation is to create awareness among students. Students also need to be exposed to the knowledge of green computing so that they can apply it in daily life. The third recommendation is to improve the quality of education. Higher education institutions need to create an education system that is sensitive to the use of green computing devices, as students at this level spend more time with the devices such as laptops, computers, mobile phones, and printers. The next recommendation is roles of media social. The researchers or the public can share information about the green computing more quickly and effectively by using social media. The last recommendation is to encouraging e-waste recycling. Students can donate the waste of the computing devices to the recycle center. So, thank you.
For the limitation of study and future research suggestion, the first one is limited model. In this study, there are only 3 independent variables and 1 dependent variable were evaluated. The findings of this study would be less convincing if the research has a small model of question. The study should be conducted using a variety of variables in order to achieve more reliable results. For instance, the researchers suggest another variable for future research, such as advantage of green computing, awareness on green computing, and formal approach to green computing, which consists of green management, green manufacturing, green design, green purchasing, green use, and green recycling and disposal. The second one is weakness of quantitative study. Quantitative research is difficult, expensive, and also time-consuming to do. A substantial number of responses is sufficient to represent the target demographic. As a result, data gathering in quantitative research methodology is typically too expensive to obtain in-depth responses on a topic compared to a qualitative technique. Besides, a systematic questionnaire with close-ended questions is used in quantitative research. It results in the restrict outcomes indicated in the research proposal. Furthermore, the respondents have limited response possibilities based on the researcher's selection. Other than that, qualitative methods face difficulty in data analysis. Therefore, the researchers recommend that in further research, qualitative methods can be used because it saves time and money. Qualitative research is a considerably more flexible method. Furthermore, a face-to-face interview is preferable for obtaining more precise data for the researcher. In short, researchers should conduct interviews with respondents to acquire data that is more efficient and exact than questionnaires. During the interview, the respondent will answer questions more accurately and directly since there are no specific options for them. The last is limited sample size. Quantitative research methodologies typically necessitate a high sample size. Nowadays, due to the COVID-19 outbreak, researchers are finding it difficult to collect all data for this study. As a result, researchers must rely on social networks such as WhatsApp, Google, and others. This research is supposed to be more appropriate for the Malaysian public to do face-to-face. However, researchers were unable to do so due to the movement control order. As a result, our sample size is decreasing because we are focusing only on spreading the questionnaire through social platforms such as the WhatsApp program. Furthermore, because the study uses limited samples, the true value that researchers select to quantify is complex. Therefore, in each research investigation, a larger sample size is required so that significantly distinct samples may be identified. So, as a conclusion, the purpose of this research is to study about the factors influencing the intention to practice green computing regarding on responsibility, attitude, and compatibility of UiTM Seremban 3 students. Therefore, this study has indicated that there was a significant and positive relationship of the all factors with the intention to practice green computing among UiTM Seremban 3 students. That's all from us. Thank you.